Hello everyone, and welcome back to this corner of New Eridu. If you have spent at least a couple of minutes on 6th Street, you will notice that life forms in New Eridu are very varied. For example, your neighbor across is a lovely megalomaniac android. Your barista is a robot capable of standing up against injustice, and you buy your cat food from a trio of mechanical rabbits. It shouldn't feel natural to us as players, but within the game setting, it does. Robots, artificial beings, and machines are treated as mundane and expected part of New Eridu's life, which is a very stark contrast compared to heated discussions about AI and its role that we are having for the past couple of years.
AI.
In this video, I've made an attempt to gather everything we know about machines of New Eridu and their varied levels of intelligence, so we can answer the most important question: has the world of ZZZ managed to reach artificial general intelligence? Let's start at the lowest level of machinery. Robotic enemies are extremely common in the Hollows, from autonomous units dispatched by Defense Force and mechs utilized by public security, to combat droids put together from scraps by Hollow Raiders. Such reliance on robotics for battle by all factions can easily be explained by how dangerous Hollows are to organic life. But the behavior of these machines is very predictable. First and foremost, they are weapons, and are incapable of completing any other kind of tasks. Other commonly seen in a Hollow kind of a robot is a Bangboo. They were created by Lady Sunbringer, specifically with that goal, to assist in Hollow-related disasters. However, they continue to be manufactured for a variety of purposes, from use in combat to traffic control, managerial roles, and simply companionship. Despite being called an intelligent device, Bangboos are quite capable. Let's go through a list of cognitive tasks that are required from an AGI and see if robo-rabbits are successful in those. Most tasks are already undeniable features of Bangboos. Perception, the ability to read input from sensors to navigate the physical world. Deduction, the ability to make observation from real-world facts. Learning, for this example we can take a case of Overtime Boo and his arc of becoming a florist. Next are slightly more complicated requirements. Language processing, the ability to read, write, and communicate in human languages. While we do communicate with Bangboos all the time, these rabbit-like robots clearly have their own language. It can be our job to not forget the translation module. Or, according to the Bangboo manual, they can be taught human tongue. However, there is no way that inbuilt translation modules are an impossibility or even a rarity in an otherwise technologically advanced society such as New Eridu. Maybe cute Bangboo language complements their already adorable appearance and allows them to be easily accepted by citizens of New Eridu. In other words, Bangboo speak is not a flaw, but a marketing strategy. Can a Bangboo succeed in decision making? The answer to this question is a resounding yes, as we have witnessed Bangboos as managers for different stores many times. Last is social intelligence, the ability to simulate human feelings and emotions. We have seen Bangboo getting upset, sulking, being shy, and experiencing joy. But the Marcel Group, that is the sole mass producer of Bangboos, insists that it's only a simulation, and not even a very advanced one. Still, to us these feelings seem very genuine, and we can't help but care for these beings, which is true for both New Eridu citizens and the players. In our world, it's very likely that Bangboos would be considered AGI, as they would most probably pass all currently existing intelligence tests. Admittedly, I wouldn't send one to the Turing test without equipping him with a proper translation module first. But in New Eridu, Bangboos hold a place akin to a pet. They are loved and considered family. Society cares about them enough that the lack of Bangboo casualties in an explosion is worthy to be reported. And some of them do hold jobs in the similar manner as dogs and horses, having assisted humanity's life since the dawn of civilization. But the other side of Bangboo's existence is that they are bought and sold, have an owner, can be ordered to be disposed of if the model is considered defective, and are low priority when it comes to missing cases. So what do Bangboo lack to be considered equal to other species in New Eridu? I have already mentioned tests that were developed to define the level of artificial intelligence, but every time the test is passed, it is deemed incomplete, and the new requirement emerges. The Turing test can be easily passed by modern LLMs, so tests moved on to physical requirements. Can a robot brew coffee? Once a robot capable of doing so is designed, the goal is moved again, and now the robot has to exhibit the capacity for planning, for example by earning a certain amount of money from the starting capital. It would be fair to speculate that something like that has happened in New Eridu too, and they ended up inventing their own ultimate challenge, the forbidden fruit test. The details of this test have not been revealed in the game, however it is referred quite often, meaning that for citizens of New Eridu it's a common knowledge. While we don't know for sure what this test requires from the machine to pass, the reference is pretty clear, which leaves us with an opportunity to theorize. Forbidden fruit is a name given to the produce grown on the tree of knowledge in the Garden of Eden that God commands mankind not to eat. As we know, Eve disobeys God and commits the original sin by eating the fruit, dooming humanity to blissless existence in the process. How this biblical story can be interpreted to confirm an emergence of higher level of intelligence? Is it the desire to discern good from evil that the tree of knowledge promises? Maybe it's about experiencing the complex feeling of temptation. Or maybe it's the act of disobedience to the direct order, as is the exercise of a free will. While we don't know the exact answer, we can take a look at robots that did pass this test, according to their in-game descriptions. The most obvious case would be Billy. Originally a battle android, he felt aimless after his owner, the previous leader of Caledon, had vanished. Newly formed Sons of Caledon had decided to let Billy go. Being given freedom, he has moved to New Eridu and found a new home as a member of Cunning Hares. When we meet Billy for the first time, he is already confirmed to have passed the Forbidden Fruit test. While the actual moment when he gained self-awareness is unknown, if you rewatch Billy's character teaser, you will notice a quiet talent change in language. Back in Outer Ring, he was bought, named, and given a mission, but after being given freedom, the language changes to active. He hooked up with Cunning Hares, and he made New Eridu a new home. I think that it is safe to assume that he didn't start as a self-aware machine, but gained consciousness somewhere along his journey. The second, even more peculiar case is Qingyi. In her aging story, The Case of a Missing Bangboo, she calls herself an advanced model, essentially just a Bangboo with more complex functionality. But with Qingyi's willingness to go against PubSec rules, remember the Forbidden Fruit test and its possible meanings, it's clear that she is being too modest. She often talks on relying on emotion and dialogue modules, but frankly speaking, her act of being robotic feels a bit ingenuine. If we dig deeper and look at her profile, it will state that she is an artificial human, which puts her at a higher level of existence than a machine, no matter how intelligent and self-aware. Her model is called 01 Neo Genesis 6. Are you noticing the Evangelion reference? In the series, Unit 01 is not just a piloted mecha, it actually houses the soul of a real human. This kind of references to already classic media can be simply respectful nods, but I think that it paints an interesting picture. Combined with the plot of Qingyi's music video, it shouldn't be far-fetched to assume that she is not merely an emergent consciousness in a robotic body inspired by ancient texts. And her being an old soul is not just a characterization, but the truth of her existence. Bringing it all back to Bangboo, I think that it is now clear what is missing. They are obedient to the point of ignoring danger coming from their own owners, and even when they act on their own, they still mimic their master's behavior, motivation, and ways of thinking. While there are claims of having manufactured Bangboo capable of passing the Forbidden Fruit test, the response is that any mech with a logic core has the potential to pass the Forbidden Fruit test, which to us reads like there is an extra unknown component to consciousness, and New Eridu is incapable of reproducing it consistently. Because why not simply create more battle units like Billy and Qingyi? They seem to have higher ether resistance, and an army of those could eliminate the need to go into hollows for any human ever again. There are two reasons. First, ties us back to the Forbidden Fruit test. Machines that do pass this test are called intelligent constructs, and by New Eridu law, they are considered citizens, with the same rights as humans, sirens, and other sentient species. In that case, relying on artificial creatures to serve humanity selflessly would be considered an act of exploitation. Second reason is that neither Billy nor Qingyi were created in New Eridu. Both of them are called a lost technology of old civilization and seem to predate even Holos. Back in January 2025, in an interview to a Japanese magazine, one developer has said that Holos are actually the after effects of an ancient war. The level of New Eridu technology, while extremely high, seems to be inferior compared to what all civilization had achieved. But on their way to higher and higher levels of technological advancement, they seem to have destroyed themselves by inadvertently creating whole disasters. To finish the video on a lighter note, let me show you another kind of intelligent construct that was actually created in New Eridu. Believe it or not, Belobog heavy machines have passed the forbidden fruit test. Can you imagine meeting one in a police office, getting their picture taken for the citizenship? We do know that some kind of ether manipulation had been performed in their creation, and that probably had made these machines more susceptible to ether corruption, as we are not only shown in the Belobog section of the main story, but also through enemy weaknesses. They are the only machine-type enemies that do have ether-weak versions. In their case, ether manipulation might have been a missing component to obtaining free will, meaning that even someone as gifted as Grace probably didn't create self-aware artificial intelligence purely out of metal and algorithms. I hope that this video was interesting and helped you to refresh the concept of intelligent construct. The idea for this essay was inspired by Sid Sr., upcoming half of an agent, who, I hope, will open up new facts about robotic life in New Eridu. You might have noticed that I missed the most important AI in the game, Fairy. The biggest reason for that is that we haven't gotten any new information on her since the lore teaser Where the Miracle Began, and that was an entire year ago. So I have decided to focus on more present examples of self-aware machines. Please leave your thoughts on the entire topic in the comments, and leave a like if you would want future videos to cover lore as this one did. I will see you soon. Bye bye!